Hi guys, welcome to another video here at the Aspiring Home Cook. In today's video, we're going to look at how to make a beautiful bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with the latest recipe videos. And for all those who are returning visitors, thanks for coming back. So let's take a look at how this bowl of pasta and meatballs comes together. We will be making the meatballs first, followed by the sauce, and last of all, putting it all together in the form of an assembly. So here's what you're going to need to make the meatballs. I'm using ground turkey or turkey mince. You can also use chicken mince if you'd like. So that's 500 grams of ground turkey, 1 onion finely chopped, 1 to 2 chilies finely chopped. You can adjust the amount of chilies based on how spicy you'd like the meatballs. 1 teaspoon of red chili powder, that's Kashmiri chili powder, which is mild. Half a teaspoon turmeric powder, salt and pepper to taste, and a couple of slices of bread. You're also going to need a little bit of oil to fry the meatballs in, and 1 egg, which I've forgotten to picture here. So let's start with the bread slices. I'm going to soak these slices of bread in some water before I can proceed with the rest of the recipe. So I've taken my ground turkey in a large bowl and I'm going to add the onion, the chilies, the chili powder, the turmeric powder, and the salt and pepper. I'm now going to add 1 egg into the bowl. At this point, the bread's ready to go into the mix. So I'm going to squeeze those 2 slices to drain all the excess water that it was soaking in. And I'm going to crumble that bread into the bowl. We're now going to mix all of those ingredients together to make sure that it's all well incorporated. Once everything's been thoroughly mixed, we're going to start forming our meatballs. Now, since this is turkey mince, or even if you use chicken mince, this mix tends to be a lot softer than if you were to use, say, beef mince. But that's all right. It just loses a tiny bit of shape, but it will hold together in the pan. So roughly shape them into meatballs and set them aside. I like to portion my mix into slightly smaller meatballs. If you like your meatballs bigger, by all means go ahead and do that, but just account for extra cooking time if your meatballs are on the bigger side. Once you're done shaping all the meatballs, you're now ready for the first stage of the cooking process. Over medium-high heat, I've got a large pan. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oil in there. At this point, we're just looking at searing the meatballs really well and cooking them almost all the way through. Once that oil has heated up, gently place the meatballs into the pan. You can reshape them if you feel the need to at this point. Now, once you see the color around the edges starting to change, gently lift one up and see if there's a little bit of browning on the other side, like so. That's a sign that that particular side has been seared off. Gently turn all the meatballs over. Now, since this meatball mix is on the softer side, you'll probably need to turn it about maybe 3 times or 4 times just to make sure it is seared on all sides and cooked almost all the way through. So once the meatballs have seared and gotten some beautiful color on all sides, take them off the pan and set them aside on a plate or in a bowl. And continue with the rest of your meatball batter until all your meatballs are done searing. Now at this stage, you're ready to start on your sauce. Before we do that, I want to share a little tip with you. You can actually use these meatballs to make some meatball sandwiches as well. But if you're going to use them for the sandwiches, make sure they're completely cooked through before taking them off the pan. Let's move on to the sauce. Here's what you're going to need to make your beautiful tomato sauce. Half an onion, finely chopped. Half a capsicum, again finely chopped, half a teaspoon red chili flakes, half a teaspoon mixed Italian herbs, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, 2 large garlic cloves finely chopped, some salt and freshly cracked black pepper to taste. I also use some dried parsley at the end. If you have fresh parsley, by all means go ahead and use that. Today for the sauce, I'm going to use some passata, about 400 grams worth or half this bottle. Now passata is a traditional Italian cooking tomato sauce. You can also use canned tomatoes if you don't have access to passata. You're also going to need a couple of pantry staples like some olive oil and a pinch of sugar. Heat a pan on medium heat and you're going to add about a tablespoon's worth of olive oil in the pan. Add in your finely chopped onion and stir it around a little. Now add your chopped capsicum and stir that through again. You're not waiting to cook this through at this stage. You just want a little bit of heat to get to the onions and the capsicum, and you want it to soften and start sweating a little. At this stage, add in your chopped garlic and stir well. You're going to let this cook for a couple of minutes until the onion and the capsicum have softened. Once the onions and the capsicum have softened, add in your chili flakes and the dried herbs and your smoked paprika. And you're going to stir that through. Add freshly ground black pepper to taste and stir to incorporate all the herbs and seasonings well. And you're just going to let this saute for about a minute or so. You should now be able to start smelling the aroma of the herbs and seasonings. Add in your passata or diced tomato, depending on what you're using, and stir it through your onion and pepper mix. You're going to let the tomatoes cook through for about a minute or so and season with a little salt. And let it continue cooking. Once the tomatoes have cooked off for a couple of minutes, add a little bit of water. I'm going to add this gradually because I will check and see what the consistency of my sauce is and what I want it to be, and based on that I will keep adding water. To begin with, I'm going to add about half to 3/4 of a cup of water to the pan. If you're using canned tomatoes, run the water through the can to take off any of the tomato puree that might have been left behind, and then pour that into the pan and let this come to a simmer. It will take about a couple of minutes, but when it comes to a simmer, you're now ready to lower the heat to medium-low. Put the lid on the pan and let this cook off for about 10 minutes or so. I would suggest checking halfway through to make sure that the sauce is still the consistency that you'd like it to be. If not, you can add more water. After about 10 minutes, you can now add the meatballs to your sauce. Gently stir them through to make sure that the meatballs are mostly covered in your tomato sauce. At this stage, I'm going to add about a teaspoon's worth of sugar. This is just to balance the tartness of the tomatoes and round off the flavors of the sauce really well. Stir that through gently one more time and cover the pan and let it cook through. You're going to leave this to cook till everything has warmed through and the meatballs have finished cooking. I'd say about another 5 minutes should do just fine. If you think that your sauce is too thick, add a little more water before you can close the pan and let it simmer. Once your meatballs have cooked through and your sauce is the right consistency for you, your meatball sauce is ready. I'm now going to add a light sprinkling of dried parsley to my meatball sauce. If you've got fresh parsley on hand, nothing like it. If not, the dried version will do just as fine. And lightly mix that through. I've boiled some pasta according to the packet instructions. I've used spaghetti. You can use whatever pasta you have on hand. I'm now going to add a little bit of the sauce to my spaghetti and make sure that that has mixed through really well. Adding the sauce to the pasta and tossing it through really enhances the flavor of the pasta compared to just serving it with the sauce on top. And you're now ready to plate your dish. I start by placing a portion of the pasta that has been tossed with the tomato sauce on my serving plate. And I'm now going to place a couple of meatballs, maybe 3 meatballs on top, and drizzle some extra sauce over. And for the last but ever so important flourish, I'm going to grate some Parmesan cheese over the top. And there you have it, guys. Spaghetti and meatballs is ready to be served. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up below and share it with family and friends. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'm going to see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, bye.